Hey, everyone. Our work can sometimes take us into some pretty tough spots,
Right.
like sometimes downright dangerous places.
Yeah, that's the reality of what we do.
So today we're going deep on something that could honestly make all the difference.
It really could.
The UNDSS First Responder program.
Yeah.
We're talking training manuals,
Yeah.
participant guides, a real behind-the-scenes look to understand what this program can do for you.
Yeah, and I think what's important to stress right off the bat is that this program is a core piece of how the UN manages security risks.
Okay, so it's not just some optional add-on.
Right, it's built into the framework.
So what's the fundamental idea behind it?
Okay, so recognizing that in emergencies, we can't always count on immediate professional medical help,
Right,
especially in the field.
especially in the field.
So it's about giving people like you the skills to step up and provide that crucial first response, that emergency medical intervention, before the pros can get there.
Okay, so bridge the gap.
Exactly, bridge the gap.
Okay, so break it down for me. Like, what does that look like in practice?
Okay, so there's two levels of training.
Yeah.
The first is the individual first aid kit, or IFAK.
IFAK.
Yeah, pronounced IFAK,
Okay.
which focuses on that immediate trauma response. The second is the emergency trauma bag, or ETB,
ETB. Got it.
which
yeah.
gives you more advanced skills.
Okay, so the IFAK is the one you carry with you all the time,
Right,
like always on you.
exactly.
And what I find so interesting about this is that it's really geared towards self-treatment.
Yeah, you become your own first responder.
Yeah. You're empowered to take care of yourself in a crisis.
Exactly, and it's something the program materials actually highlight,
Oh, yeah.
that serious bleeding can be fatal in as little as 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow, that really puts it into perspective.
Yeah, it underscores how urgent it is to have these skills.
Yeah, for sure. So IFAK, what I'm hearing is there's been an upgrade.
There has.
It's like a new and improved version.
They've rolled out IFAK 2.0.
2.0.
Yeah. And one of the key changes is they've aligned the training with best practices from groups like the Committee of Tactical Combat Casualty Care, or COTCCC.
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 And they've streamlined it too. It's now a one-day training.
Oh, wow. So more efficient.
Much more efficient.
So you can get trained and get back out in the field.
Exactly.
And they've taken out CPR, right?
They have CPR is still a valuable skill, of course,
Of course.
but it's now considered separate from the core focus of the IFAK, which is immediate response to trauma.
Right. Okay. So let's say I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, okay, I want to get this training. What should I expect?
So IFAK 2.0 uses a two-phase approach.
2 phases.
Yeah, phase 1 is all about self-study, getting that foundation.
Makes sense.
The ETB 2.0 manual and the UN Buddy First Aid app are really great resources.
Oh, so you can actually get started before the training even begins.
Yeah, get ahead of the game, familiarize yourself with things like massive bleeding and airway management.
So hit the books, then get hands-on.
Yeah. Phase 2 is where it all comes together. It's all about that hands-on learning.
Okay.
There are presentations, demonstrations.
Yeah. But the core of it is really the intensive skills practice. They put you through your paces with these realistic casualty scenarios.
Oh, wow.
Using something called the casualty scenario tool.
Casualty scenario tool.
Yeah.
Okay, so they really try to make it feel real.
As real as possible.
So it's physically demanding.
Absolutely. And mentally demanding.
Yeah, for sure. Because in the field, it's going to be both.
Exactly. The goal is to make sure you can actually apply what you've learned under pressure.
Right. And at the heart of it all is this thing called the March H protocol.
Yeah, you've heard of March.
I have heard of March. I know it's an acronym, but I'm not sure I can tell you what it stands for.
Okay, so MARCH stands for Massive Bleeding, Airway, Respiration, Circulation, and Head and Hypothermia. And it basically gives you a really clear, systematic approach to casualty care.
Okay, like a mental checklist.
Exactly. It helps you prioritize those critical interventions.
So you're not just panicking. You're like, okay, what's the first thing I need to do?
Right. You've got a roadmap.
Got it. So break it down for me.
Okay, so the training dives deep into each element of MARCH. You'll learn how to use a tourniquet to control bleeding, the head tilt chin lift or jaw thrust maneuvers for airway management, even how to use a nasopharyngeal airway or an NPA.
An NPA. Wow, I'm already learning so much.
Yeah, it's packed with information.
It really is. Like so many life-saving tools and techniques all packed into this one program.
Absolutely. And it's not just about knowing how to use the tools, but also understanding why they work.
Yeah, the why is important.
Like, for example, with respiration, you'll learn how to manage breathing difficulties, especially in cases of chest injuries,
Right.
and how to use chest seals effectively.
So we've covered March, but is there more?
There is. They actually build on March with the concept of rapid casualty assessment.
RCA.
RCA, exactly. And this takes things to the next level by teaching you to quickly assess an entire scene determine when to call for help and how to prioritize those life-threatening injuries, even in a chaotic environment.
Okay, so it's like March plus.
March plus.
More big picture.
Exactly. It's about making those split-second decisions that could be the difference between life and death.
And they simulate that in the training.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They throw you into these realistic scenarios.
Oh,
With the casualty scenario tool, that's where it all comes together.
that's got to be intense.
It is.
So it's not just the physical skills.
It is.
It's about keeping your cool,
Yeah,
making the right call under pressure.
exactly.
This program is amazing. There's one more thing I want to ask about before we move on. They have a whole module on gender considerations.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, it comes down to recognizing that providing care in the field, especially in the places we work,
Right.
it often means dealing with these complex social and cultural dynamics.
Yeah, for sure.
So this module helps responders provide care that's inclusive and respectful no matter what,
Okay, so thinking about those sensitivities.
and making sure everyone gets the care they need.
So it's not just about the medical techniques, but also how you deliver them.
Exactly. It's about navigating those sensitive situations.
Okay, so I've gone through the training, I've mastered March H, I've aced the simulations. Now what? How do I actually become a certified first responder?
So there's a two-part assessment. First, you have to prove you can walk the walk.
Yep.
You'll have a practical exam where you demonstrate your skills.
Show them you can handle it in the real world.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then,
And then there's a written exam covering all the material.
right, so they know you've got the knowledge to back it up.
Exactly. And if you pass both,
You're officially a UNDSS IFAK First Responder.
you got it. And that certification is good for 2 years.
2 years of knowing you've got the skills to make a real difference in a crisis.
That's a good feeling.
It's a great feeling. Okay, so just to recap for everybody, we've talked about how this first responder program is vital to the UN's security framework.
It is.
It's about empowering people like you with the skills to provide that pre-hospital emergency medical intervention out there in the field.
Especially when things get rough. Exactly. We've broken down the 2 levels of training, the IFAK, which is all about self-treatment, and the ETB
Yeah.
for those more advanced skills.
And how quick you need to be with serious bleeding.
Yeah. That 3-minute window is a stark reminder.
Absolutely.
We talked about IFAK 2.0 training,
That two-phase approach.
self-study followed by those intense hands-on simulations.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we broke down the Marsh protocol.
Your roadmap for casualty care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. We even talked about how the training goes beyond just the medical techniques with things like rapid casualty assessment and those all-important gender considerations.
It's a holistic approach.
Absolutely. It's been
Yeah.
quite a journey so far,
It has.
and we're just getting started.
Welcome back.
So, as we were talking about the IFAK training in the last part,
Yeah.
I was really struck by how much it emphasizes that self-treatment aspect.
Yeah.
It's not just about helping others, right?
Right.
It's about being prepared to take care of yourself in a crisis. And I think that's got to be incredibly empowering, especially for people working in isolated places or, high-risk environments.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about understanding that in a lot of situations, you are your own first line of defense. And I
Right.
think that knowledge,
Mm.
that ability to be in control and act when things go wrong,
Yeah.
it can really change how someone feels about their own confidence and resilience in the field.
Yeah. It's almost like a mental shift, isn't it?
Totally.
Like from feeling vulnerable to feeling prepared and
Oh,
capable.
Exactly. And that shift can actually have a much broader impact.
Oh, yeah.
I think it can change not just your own sense of security,
Right.
but also how you approach risk management and decision making out in the field.
So it's a more proactive mindset.
Exactly. You're
Yeah.
thinking ahead, anticipating challenges, and having a plan in place.
Okay, so speaking of planning, we talked about the IM gas, but what about the ETB, the emergency trauma bag?
Right.
What's different about that?
So the ETB is designed for those more advanced interventions. It builds on what you learn in the IFAKS training,
Okay.
and it's actually a week-long course
Oh, wow. Okay.
that goes deeper into trauma care, giving you a wider range of skills to handle more complex situations.
So if the IFAK is like immediate stabilization,
Yeah.
the ETB is about taking that next step,
Exactly.
more comprehensive care while you wait for the professionals to arrive.
Precisely. It's about bridging that gap effectively.
Right.
And the training reflects that it's more intensive, covering a wider array of procedures and techniques,
Okay.
but it's still within the scope of pre-hospital care.
Right.
It's not about replacing doctors or nurses,
Of course not.
but it's about giving you the tools to do as much as you can until they can get there.
Okay, so is the ETB training open to everyone, or is there some kind of selection process?
It's not a blanket training program.
Okay.
The selection is actually made at the duty station level,
Okay.
taking into account things like security risk assessments,
Yeah.
operational needs, and available resources.
So they're really thinking about who needs this the most.
Exactly. It wouldn't be feasible to train everyone to that level.
Makes sense.
And it's probably most crucial for people in higher risk areas or remote locations.
Right, where access to medical care is limited.
Exactly. It's about adapting the training to the specific needs of different operational contexts.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that makes this program so effective.
What's that?
It's adaptable and scalable. You know, a one-size-fits-all approach just doesn't work in our line of work.
Yeah, for sure. So thinking back to my initial reaction, when I first heard about the IFAK's focus on self-treatment,
Yeah.
I have to admit I had some doubts. I was like, is that really a good idea?
Yeah.
Putting that much responsibility on someone with just basic training.
It's a natural question.
Yeah.
And I think the program addresses it head on.
Okay.
The training really stresses self-assessment, understanding your limits,
Okay.
and knowing when a situation is just beyond your level of training.
Right. It's not about making everyone into a doctor.
Exactly. It's about giving people those crucial first steps,
Right.
stabilizing the situation, and potentially saving lives until professional help arrives.
Okay, so empowering people to act, but also being responsible and knowing when to step back.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And even those basic interventions, like applying direct pressure to a wound, using a tourniquet correctly,
Right.
those things can make a huge difference,
Yeah.
especially in those first few minutes.
Yeah. It's amazing how impactful those simple actions can be.
It is, and that's why the program is so focused on making the training as realistic and effective as possible.
Right, like the casualty scenario tool.
Exactly. Putting you through your paces, simulating those high-pressure situations.
I bet those simulations are really intense.
They are?
It can't just be about the physical skills.
Right.
You have to be able to stay calm,
Mm.
assess the situation, and make tough decisions under pressure.
That's a key part of it. The program recognizes that effective first response.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just the medical techniques. It's about communication, clear thinking, those soft skills that are so important in a crisis.
Yeah.
Being a leader and a problem solver, even when things are falling apart.
So it's about developing a certain mindset.
Yeah, a way of approaching those chaotic situations.
Okay, so speaking of the learning environment, I'm curious about the instructors.
Yeah.
Who are these people who teach the IFAK and ETB courses?
Well, the selection process is pretty rigorous.
Okay.
Because they play such a vital role in shaping the skills and mindset of future first responders.
Yeah.
So for ETB instructors, a recognized medical qualification is essential.
Okay.
Something like an emergency medical technician or equivalent.
Right.
And then they go through a specific ETB instructor course
Okay.
to give them the teaching skills they need to deliver this specialized training.
Which we're talking seasoned medical professionals who are also good teachers.
Exactly. Now, for IFAK instructors, the requirements are a bit different. A formal medical background isn't mandatory, but they need to be highly proficient in the IFAK program itself,
Yeah.
including those hands-on skills and the ability to apply them under pressure.
Okay, so they really know their stuff.
They do.
Yeah.
And of course, they go through specific instructor certification
Oh,
to make
yeah.
sure they can teach effectively.
So you might have instructors with backgrounds in the military or emergency response,
Yeah,
bringing all those different perspectives and experiences to the training.
exactly. And I think that diversity of expertise really enriches the program.
Yeah.
It makes sure that the training is not just technically sound, but also relevant to all the different situations people might face.
It's good that they're thinking about that. I'm
Yeah.
glad they're bringing in those different perspectives. And speaking of diversity, we talked about that module on gender considerations in first response.
Right.
I don't think you typically see that in medical training, at least not to this extent.
Yeah, it's pretty unique
Why is it such a crucial part of this program?
because it recognizes that providing care in the field, especially in the environments we work in,
Right.
it can be really complex. Gender dynamics, cultural norms, even personal beliefs can all influence how care is delivered and received during a crisis.
So it's about being sensitive to those factors,
Absolutely.
making sure everyone feels safe and respected,
Yeah.
and navigating those potentially sensitive situations.
Exactly. It's not just about providing good medical care. It's
Right.
about providing that care in a way that's culturally appropriate,
Yeah.
sensitive to individual needs, and ultimately most effective for the casualty.
So it's a holistic approach.
Yes. It recognizes that effective first response is about so much more than just the procedures themselves.
Okay, so we've talked about the initial training,
Right.
but how do you make sure those skills stay fresh? You're not exactly using a tourniquet every day.
Yeah, that's where recertification comes in.
Okay.
Both first responders and instructors need to renew their certifications every 2 years
Okay.
to show that they're keeping their skills sharp and staying up to date on any changes.
It's an ongoing process.
It is. You don't just learn it once and forget about it.
Right. You got to stay current.
Exactly. For first responders, recertification might involve refresher courses,
Okay.
participating in drills and exercises,
Yeah.
maybe even shadowing more experienced responders in the field.
Uh-huh.
It's about maintaining that competence and making sure they're ready to act when needed.
And for instructors,
Yeah.
it's probably about showing that they've been actively teaching,
Yeah,
keeping up with developments in the field, and improving their teaching skills.
exactly. Maintaining those high standards.
I really like that this program isn't static.
Yeah.
It's always evolving and adapting to meet the changing needs of the UN's operational environment.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so effective.
Right.
It's not just a one-time thing.
It's a commitment.
It's a commitment to building a culture of preparedness, resilience, and continuous improvement.
Well said. I think
Yeah.
we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We talked about the ETB training, the qualifications of the instructors, the importance of keeping those skills fresh through recertification,
Yeah.
and that crucial emphasis on gender considerations in first response.
It's been a fascinating discussion.
It really has. But there's one more piece of this puzzle to explore. Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive on the UN Department of Safety and Security First Responder Program.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. We've talked about the training, the skills, the commitment to ongoing learning,
Yeah, a lot of information.
but now I want to talk about what it all means.
Okay, the big picture.
Exactly. In this last part, let's zoom out and think about the larger impact.
Yes, good.
You know what I find really impressive about this program is how it goes beyond just equipping individuals.
Yeah, it's bigger than that.
It's like it has the potential to change the whole UN system,
I think you're right.
how we approach safety and security.
It's not just about being ready yourself, it's about creating a culture of collective responsibility.
Okay, so everyone feels responsible for safety and security.
Exactly. It's about that shared responsibility where everybody feels empowered to help keep their colleagues safe and to support the mission.
So it's like everyone's looking out for each other.
Yeah, imagine a network of trained first responders all over the world ready to act in a crisis.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Like a global safety net.
exactly.
Wow. And this impact could even go beyond the UN, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, think about collaborating with local communities and NGOs.
Okay.
We can create this much more resilient and responsive system for handling emergencies.
Yeah, especially in tough environments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, picture this. A UN mission arrives in some remote location, and there's already a network of local first responders,
Wow.
already trained and ready to go.
That would make a huge difference.
It would,
Yeah.
and it really fits with the UN's commitment to building those strong partnerships and empowering local communities.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've talked about those practical benefits, but what about the impact on individual UN personnel?
Okay.
Just knowing you have the skills to potentially save a life, even your own. That's got to be incredibly empowering.
You're right. It's not just about the physical stuff, it's about mental resilience too.
Okay, so how does that play out?
Well, imagine this. You're facing a crisis, but instead of feeling afraid or unsure, you're confident that you can handle it.
Because you have the training.
Exactly. You have the knowledge and the skills to act effectively.
So that fear turns into action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about going from feeling helpless to feeling in control.
And I imagine that can have a ripple effect.
It does. It can improve team dynamics and even the success of the entire mission.
Yeah, because when people feel confident, they work better together.
Exactly. A team of strong, confident first responders.
Mhm.
They trust each other, they collaborate, and it creates a more resilient working environment.
So preparedness leads to confidence, confidence leads to resilience, and resilience leads to a more successful mission.
Exactly. It all comes together.
It's amazing. And really highlights how important it is to invest in the safety and well-being of UN personnel.
Yeah, it's not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do.
Makes the UN more effective, efficient, and successful.
Exactly. It helps us tackle the world's toughest challenges.
So a stronger UN, better equipped to make a difference.
That's the goal.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the UNDSS First Responder program, I think the takeaway is clear.
What's that?
This isn't just a training program, it's about hope. It's about taking care of each other and facing the world's challenges with courage and competence.
It's a reminder that even when things are tough, we can make a difference.
And that's a powerful message to carry with you wherever your work takes you. Stay safe out there, and thanks for joining us.